So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the myth of escaping 9 to 5 job, or the myth of getting to a point where you don't have to work, where you don't have to do anything, you don't have to produce anything. And the whole idea of creating wealth, how it's been marketed, and this is something that I bought into, is that I'm doing the work so that one day I get to a point where I don't have to work and I can just relax. I can travel the world. I can go to places like Bali or Italy, and I can just sit down on the cafe and have my coffee and look at the women, beautiful women passing by, and look at the waterfall and just do nothing, just do nothing. And the whole reason I wanted to make money was so that I get to that point. And it was super counterintuitive, because that fantasy was coming from a place where I actually did not want to work. And I didn't really look into why I don't want to work. I had just concluded that I actually don't want to do anything. And I want to get to a point where I don't have to do anything. And it was a very conflicting idea, because to produce wealth, you have to work. And you have to do a lot of work, and you have to do more work than everybody else. And you have to do things which are risky, and that's how you get to wealth. And you have to do it over a long period of time. But the fantasy of not working is, if that is the fantasy that's driving you towards work, then you have a fundamental misalignment in a philosophy, and you have a misalignment in terms of your values, because you have to work to produce. And if you want to produce so you don't have to work, is coming from a place where you don't have a good relationship to work itself. And if you did have a good relationship to work, then you wouldn't want to escape the work. So you wouldn't actually have a problem working. And if you didn't have a problem working, then you would just work. And if you would just work, you would produce, and you would have that wealth. And you could choose to not work, but because you love the work, that's how you got there, you would still choose to work. And if you look at all the people, when it comes to this, whether it's Elon Musk, whether it's Cristiano Ronaldo, whether it's anybody who has accomplished something significant, your role models, and my role models are Elon Musk and Prince Al-Walid, these guys, Donald Trump, these guys love the work. And that's how they got there. Because to get to that place where you don't have to work, you have to work. And to be able to work that long hours, you have to love the work. And that was something that I struggled with for so long, because I really did not love the work. And the problem is not how do I get myself to a point where I don't have to work. The problem is the relationship to work. And this is something that I concluded, and I started to analyze my relationship to my work. And I started to look into this narrative more and more, because you might have seen this movie called Eat, Pray, Love, where Julia Roberts, she leaves America and she comes to India and Bali and Italy. I believe it was Italy, the third destination. And she goes out and she travels, and she gets a lot of realizations that she's been working too hard and she needs to take rest and she needs to relax and all of that. And I like the movie, and I love Julia Roberts, but I recently went to Bali buying into that fantasy of the island life. And I was so excited. I got on the plane. I was talking to the air hostess. Oh, you're going to Bali, you want the island life away from the city. And then I went to Bali, and then first night, I went, I need to slow down. I have been working last many years I need to take a break, right? I want to go to a vacation, I need to take a break. And then I took a vacation and I did go to a club or a bar, and I looked around all the people there, and I didn't want to associate with anybody there. I didn't want to be like them, I didn't want to associate with them, and they were just jumping and not doing anything, and they were just jumping for no reason, and it didn't make any sense to me. And I looked around, and it was the same songs in different bars and different clubs, and it was the same DJ, and it was the same miserable people trying to get away from their work. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? I'd rather be talking to my chairman, who was a CEO of a $3.5 billion company. I'd rather be negotiating a $25 million deal and dealing with all of that complexity. I'd rather be dressed up in a 3-piece suit in a beautiful 5-star hotel, like talking about complex issues. That's what I want to do. What the hell am I doing here? And we tend to take actions based on the ideas that have been sold to us, the fantasies. And then I sat on the beach, and then I got sunburned, and my nose became like swelled up, and I mean, the food wasn't great, and I mean, like, people weren't doing anything, and I was like, what the fuck is this? This is not inspiring at all. You know, these guys don't have to exert themselves. These guys don't have to perform. Like, these guys don't have to take risks. I mean, and then I sat down and I started talking to a girl on the beach, and she told me, you know, what is more dominant in you, Shiva or Shakti? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, you know? I did practice yoga and I understand some things, but I mean, what she was trying to ask me, what's more dominant, masculine, feminine? I mean, what the fuck, you know? And then I was like, I need to get out of this place. You know, seems like a madhouse, and I got out of that place. And I really wanted to be working. For the first time in my life, you know, I wasn't fantasizing about a vacation. For the first time in my life, I got to a point where the work itself was pleasurable, was desirable, was something that I wanted to do. And if you notice the times where you didn't have to work and you were all, you know, sitting down with your friends and family, once you have relaxed a little bit, always this idea comes up. Let's do something. You know, let's create something. Let's think about something big. Let's do something phenomenal. You know, let's create something phenomenal. So when you are at a point where you don't have to work, you tend to come up with big ideas to work. So there is no escaping work. And if you look at kids, their biggest punishment is to not work. If you just get them to sit in one place and not work, they would go crazy, you know. But if you put them on a beach, they would want to build these sand castles. They would want to create and express this energy that they have inside into products, you know, and things. And creation and this desire to create is innate in a human being. And we want to be extraordinary, we want to create extraordinary futures. And the reason why we have a negative relationship with work is because sometimes in your working environment, there might be a situation where the environment is not inspiring enough. I worked with my brother for a while, and the environment wasn't the best, and I knew I could be doing much more. And what he would tell me is that you have a work ethic problem. And that's not the case. I wanted more. I wanted to do bigger works, and I wanted to do bigger things. I didn't want to do something small, something little, something that is not worthy of my time, something that's not worthy of my potential. So it's really about finding something that is big enough, that has a big enough reward. And careers that tend to have very big enough rewards and very big prize associated with it, like those careers tend to be very glamorous, and the nature of work in those careers is very different than, for example, sitting on an Excel sheet. You know, and I have sat on an Excel sheet. In my work, it's not such a bad thing, But doing things like data entry or something menial that doesn't have a big reward associated with it, or it's not something that requires any serious amount of your potential, that work tends to be very boring and disengaging. I think that's the reason why a lot of the people have developed bad relationship to work. And because if it's something that's not using your full potential, and it's something that's not giving you a big enough reward, you wouldn't want to do it. So it's not the work that's the problem, it's the kind of work, it's the nature of work, it's the environment of work, and it's also the dynamics of work. So typically in a 9-to-5 job, you have a boss controlling your time, and you don't get to do what you want to do. You don't get to create what's, your natural inspiration. You are given things to do which are really menial tasks, and it's a very boring type of work, and you really don't have a choice of what to work, and it's a very different kind of work. And that's the reason why a lot of the employees tend to want a lot of holidays, and they tend to want breaks, because they're not rewarded enough and the work is boring. But an entrepreneur, for example, is creating. He doesn't see it as a work. He's creating, he's expanding, he's pushing his potential constantly. He's taking risks. It's a thrill. He's having sleepless nights. He's meeting big people. He's raising capital. He's developing ideas. He's solving problems. The nature of work tends to be very creative, and there are big rewards associated with it. There can be also big failures, but at least everything is big. And that's the point. Everything becomes emotionally compelling when things are big and things are wild and things are massive. And the whole idea of escaping the work is a myth. The whole idea of escaping 9-to-5 is a myth, because even if you were in a position to do that, you wouldn't enjoy it. You would still prefer to work, but it's just going to be a different kind of work. And it's just going to be, you would still want to work. You would get bored in no time. How long can you have champagne and coffee and sex and like travel? And even traveling takes a lot of work. You got to book the flights, hotel, and do a lot of planning and various things. So even travel tend to have work. So the choice is between doing non-financial work or doing work that's very financially rewarding. But there is no escape to working, because you would go crazy. Think about the people who are paralyzed and they really don't have to work. They really don't have to even walk. Other people take care of them. They don't necessarily have a desirable life. And, or a lot of the times, for example, housewives who sit at home and don't have kids and don't have anything to do, and the husband is away, they get frustrated. And a lot of the women, their first thing is, I want to do something. I want to do something. Get me to do something. I'm bored at home. My husband takes care of my expenses. I want to do something. So it's not a desirable goal to not do anything, because you would not love it. You would not enjoy it. You would get bored of it. And most likely that's not what you really want. What you really want is to work on something big, something grand, something marvelous, something worthy of your time and your potential. So that's the video I wanted to make, to readjust the motive or the reason why we want to create wealth. It's not about survival, because the human body doesn't need a lot to survive. It's about being big, it's about being bold, and it's about exploring your true potential. And that's why a lot of the rich people get this question, you don't have to work, but why do you work? And the answer is because I fucking love it. And I love what I do, and I love what I create. And it's about that. It's about creation. And you're no longer operating from a place of concern for money, because that's already taken care of. And now you're really working to create, to express yourself. And that's the purpose of work. I'll talk to you soon.